Not a very interesting, interactive, and of course informative edition of the program. Of course, you can make it a rendezvous at this time on every Monday to Friday at this time right here on Africa TV. So wherever you are around the world, thank you so very much for being there and for joining us, where we of course we bring you all the latest happening in the Gambia and of course beyond. As we know, we cross borders and boundaries to bring you what we believe is always in the interest of our viewers and of course to the Gambian people and of course to, to everybody who watch and follow iAfrica. And we say thank you for the loyal support. We appreciate your contributions as always. You do. And today we have some very interesting lineup again in this Thursday morning being the 1st of July 2021. Happy new month, by the way, and thank you again. So we hope it will be a very interesting one as the countdown continues to December. There's much to talk about in terms of election and the electoral process, the electoral cycle. So of course, you know, it's going to be another interesting one this morning. So thank you so very much. mbokk yi ñu ngi leen di nuyu beneen yoon fii ci Africa TV ñu amaat mbégte nag lool dellusiwaat tey ci suba sile di leen wax rek ne ñu ngi leen di gërëm di leen ziar bu baax fi ngeen mënta nekk ci biir réew mi ba ci biti réew di rafetlu bu baax a baax ni ngeen di ànd ak ñun saa su ne bu waxtu bi jotee dooree ko Monday ba Friday juróom-ñeenti waxtu bu si suba si jotee ngeen ànd ak ñun loolu rendez-vous la ngeen ànd ak ñun ci jotaay ji ñu waxtaane li nga xamante ne mooy xew-xew yi ci biir réew mi waaye tamit naka noonu ci biti réew ñu digtal leen suñ ay xibaar tamit nekk xibaar yu wér te wóor xibaar yu am solo comme niñ ko taataane saa su ne ci programme bi incha allah tey tamit mu fas yéene nekkaat beneen jotaay tey incha allah yem ak benn fan ci weeri July ci weer bi nga xamante ne tey lañ ko door ñu dal di leen wish of course happy new month di ñaan tamit jaama continuer ci réew mi waaye tamit bu dee tey sa birthday la te ngay seetal ñu wish la happy birthday ñaanal la jaamo comme niñ ko waxee ñu profito sax wisaale suñ xarit ak suñu collègue kii di Taatu happy belated birthday waroon nañ ko teel a def sax waaye xam nga rek comme tey bés bi moom nii la demee ñu profito rek wish ko happy belated birthday ñaanal ko jaama bu baax a baax moom suñu xarit la mu ngi noonu su ko defee tey ci xibaar yi nañ ci indi li nga xamante ne mooy xibaar yu am solo CDS mooy ku nga xamante ne moom moo jiite ami bi ci biir réew mi jamono ji mu ngi wër ci réew mi yëpp fépp fi nga xamante ne am nañ foofu wala ami bi ñu ngi leen di daloo wala am nañ ay dalookaay ci biir réew mi ay béréb fu ne mu ngi faa dem nemmeeku seen nekkin waxtaan ak ñoom ñaax leen nag si seen taxawaay ci biir réew mi pour jàmm bu baax mun a sax ci smiling cause of West Africa wala Africa wala aduna bi sax mooy di Gambia loolu mu nekk lu am solo su ko defee nañ ci indi report ci kanam tuuti ñu yaatal ko nañ ci toftal leneen of course nañ host dem ci biti réew comme niñ koy defee saa su ne waaye tamit foog ñu àddu ci wàllu mbas mi mooy COVID-19 ay mbiram gis ngeen ne bu yàggul sax ministre bi ñu ngi woone ne am nañ ay few cases mooy ay foog naa 10 cases bu ma jumule yi nga xamante ne loolu lañ mujjee registré ci réew mi loolu dafay firndeel nag ne feebar baa ngi fi so ku ne war ngaa bàyyi sa xel bu baax a baax ci loolu tamit ci impact bu mu am ci wàllum education sector bi mooy wàllum njàng mi ak njàngale ci biir réew mi yàgg nañ koo wax waaye nañ ci dictate am na ay waajur yi nga xamante ne si seen xale yi nu ñoo demee ci school si wala ci école yi xal na leen jaaxal wala am nañ ci ay concerns loolu tamit nañ ci ñëw incha allah nañ ci toftal yeneen xibaar dem ci National Assembly bi séntu wala boog seet taxawaay li nga xamante ne mooy pencum ndaw réew mi ak député yi seen waxtaan ci yenn yi nga xamante ne mooy ay nekkin ci biir réew mi ak tamit ay mbir yi nga xamante ne dafa yitteel nit ñi wala soxal réew mi loolu tamit nañ ci ñëwaat bu baax a baax su ko defee ponk yaa ngi noonu su ko defee ñu soobu ci gannaaw nuyoo bi ak dalal bi ñu yaatal ko bu baax a baax well thank you so very much again for coming along and let's begin our first story with matters of security, if you like, because the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Yakuba Drame, has on Tuesday held a meeting with the soldiers of blocked military camp as part of his ongoing nationwide military tour. While addressing the gathering, the CDS urged soldiers not to be aggressors to civilians, instead be their protectors and saviors as they constitute the majority in society. And here's more details of that in this report by Aminda.
For a betterment of any country, the relationship between the military and the civilians should always be cordial. There is always peace, security, and development in any country where there is mutual collaboration and trust between the military and the civil society. As ensuring peace and security is everybody's business, promoting and safeguarding national security is the responsibility of all, including the civilian population. The Chief of Defense Staff, Yakubu A. Drame, shared his thoughts with the soldiers on how to strengthen a good working relationship with the civilians.
It behoves you and I to cultivate and sustain a healthy working relationship with your brothers and sisters outside uniforms. If you look at it, we're all from homes, and we shall all go back to homes. Today we are privileged to wear uniform, because that's our choosing career. But remember, come May, one day, whether we like it or not, either by design or circumstances, we may want to cast down this uniform and go back to civil life. Now, if you leave, how do you want to be embraced back into the society? How do you want to reintegrate into the society? Ask yourself those questions. Whatever you do in life, strongly I can share this with you, it's temporal. There is nothing permanent. Before me, there were CDS. Today I'm the CDS. Tomorrow somebody will come as a CDS.
As civilians compose the majority, CDS urged his men to protect and save their lives and not to be their aggressors.
I'm impressed. I've been told that you have a good working relationship with the locals of this village. That is what is expected. You cannot have it less than that, but rather see how you can further enhance the relationship between you and the community that constitute the majority. We're just a drop in the ocean. They are in the majority, and we should be seen as their protectors and their saviors, not aggressors. Anybody found one thing, it is not going to be taken lightly.
Since such a relationship is healthy for every nation, it is a challenge for all democratic governments to ensure a more cordial civil-military relationship. The protection of any country's sovereignty and territorial integrity is the primary function of the military. Meanwhile, the military tour, which commenced on Monday, 21st June 2021, is aimed at getting first-hand information on the living and working conditions of the soldiers. The tour also includes the inspection of ongoing building projects at barracks, meant to ease accommodation for the men and women serving in the country's armed forces. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amindao.
All right, Amindao reports there as the Gambia's Army Chief, Lieutenant General Yakubu Drame, continues his nationwide tour, of course, on military postal deployments across the country. And of course, he has encouraged his men and women in uniform to maintain or to build a strong, cordial relationship between them and, of course, and the civilians. They are brothers and sisters. There should be that close tie. There should be that common understanding. There should be that good working relationship between our, of course, very own security forces, especially the army and the civilians. And like he said, they are our brothers and sisters. They are in uniform, but they're also from the society, from the communities, from families. Sure, and of course, we are all Gambians by the way, but of course they have a service to do to the nation, but that should not make any difference. That should not trigger or bring any sort of difference between them and the civilians or the Gambian public, I can say, or the ordinary person out there. So I think there's a very strong and wise message there from the CDS. And of course, interestingly, he said there were, other CDS before him, and today he's the CDS, but tomorrow there will be somebody, maybe from those that he is speaking to there in that gathering, who knows. So, but whatever it is, it's up to all of us as Gambians to see ourselves as one nation, as one people, as the saying goes. So whether you are in uniform or not, whatever it is, we are all the same people, one Gambia. So there shouldn't be any difference in whatever the case might be. And I think the city has taken this opportunity, especially in such a very crucial moment, because we are headed into a very crucial moment. in December. Not some, of course, it's important because it's a decision-making moment for the country, you know. So in that regard, we all expected to play our roles in whatever capacity we have. So as people who, the men and, you know, women who are out there to be protectors, as the CDA say, and saviors, but they should not be aggressors. That's I think that's very, very important, and I know they would take note as well. So ko defee mu ngi noonu comme ni ngeen ko gisee noonu ci of course ci report bi CDS ñi nga xamante ne moom moo jiite soldats yi ci réew mi mu ngi wër waxtaan ak ñi nga xamante ne mooy ndaw yi nga xamante ñoom ñoo nekk ci ronam di leen ñaax ci seen taxawaay waaye tamit nee na li am solo mooy ñoom soldats yi dañu war a am li nga xamante ne mooy seen diggante ak civilians yi dafa war a seen diggante dafa war a ratax nekk li nga xamante ne mooy dañu war a jégalante ñoom ñu nekk ñi nga xam dañu war a aar ci seen rakka yi ak seen mag yi aar leen taxaw leen waaye nekkoon ñi nga xamante dañu war a daanu seen kaw def naka su du noonu daf leen ci ñaax fàttali leen bu baax xam naa ne sax xam nañ ko te loolu mu nekk lu am solo surtout nag moom mi nga xamante ne moom moo jiite mu jóg dem fekki leen ñaax leen si seen taxawaay xam tamit seen nekkin ak jafe-jafe yi nga xamante ne ñu ngi koo dund ndax ci too bi dégg nañ ci lu bari moom mu ngi leen di ñaax waaye ñoom tam ñu ngi wax jëmale ci moom wax leen ci ni ñoo dundee jafe-jafe yi nga xamante ne ñu ngi koo dund si seen nekkin loolu tamit mu bugg a koo xam ban taxawaay la ci ñoom la leen ci war a am ak nguur gi liggéey ci ak xëy na Ministry of Defence pour ñoom tamit seen nekkin bu am solo ndax ñoom tamit seen taxawaay nekk na lu am solo ndax ñun bu ñoo nelaw ñoom dañuy génn ci biti fexe ñëpp nekk ci jàmm soo loolu dafa am solo bu baax a baax ñu ñaax leen waaye tamit ñaanal leen bu baax gërëm leen tamit si seen taxawaay di leen wax ne daal ñoom ak civilian si sotti si ak def si la ñun yëpp benn la ndax Gambia ñun yëpp ñoo ci am te ñoo ko bokk te waaw mu ngi noonu daal su ko defee ñu wéy gannaaw loolu ñu xuus dem fale ci Nigeria den su ko defee ñu ñëwaat foog tamit xam nga ñun moom léegi am kon ay Afrique lañu wax Afrique nag xam nga naka la su ko defee ñu dem seet tamit foofu dund bi ak nekkin bi naka la foofu ci biir Nigeria. We'll move on to our next story now and cross borders to Nigeria where the price of food in the country has drastically increased, accounting for over 60% of the total increase in inflation. Now, according to a new report by the World Bank, the rise in price have pushed an estimated 7 million Nigerians below the poverty line in 2020 alone. In order to tackle the menace, the report highlighted the need for Nigeria to reduce inflation by providing or promoting inclusive growth and job creation, and also help small and medium businesses gain access to finance. Let's have more details of that in this report.
This market is normally one of Abuja's go-tos for cheap foodstuffs, but that has changed over recent weeks. Some shoppers here say the hike in food prices has gone to absurd level.
I came to the market with a budget to buy some foodstuff that lasts me for a month. But funny enough, I could not even get enough. And it's so sad, it's so heartbreaking right now.
The hike, more than 100% of what we used to buy, it's really ridiculous. Everything is high. The meat, egg was usually 1,900. Now we're buying for 1,500. I really don't know. I don't know how we want to survive.
About 41% of the 200 million Nigerians live in poverty, and that figure is now worsening. The World Bank reports of 7 million more people slipping into poverty due to inflation. In February, the country recovered from a recession it slipped into last year due to impact from the coronavirus and global fall in oil prices. Yet, Nigeria's economy is import-driven, meaning the country exchanges its naira for foreign currencies like the dollar to ship in products needed for consumption.
One of the major causes of inflation is our exchange rate. Imagine some years back, that dollar was 160 something and 170. If you bring in good, that period, it is in that comparison that the price of your good is. Now, dollar is what? Dollar is around almost call it 480 something. That's even official. If you go to unofficial, you get it worse. And by the time you bring in good, imagine how much it's going to be. Our inflation is not basically the COVID. COVID could be a part of it.
The country's Bureau of Statistics says the inflation rate is currently 17.9%, up from 12.4% the same period last year, with food prices accounting for over 60% of the total increase in inflation. Experts say until the country focuses more on producing enough food to feed its population and then ramp up exports, the inflation problem will continue to linger.
In order to drive down inflation, there must be economic activities. You must produce goods and services, and such goods and services have to sell in both local and international markets. We should look at agriculture. Agriculture gives the economy a base. That's why we say that agriculture is the mainstay of most economies in the world.
President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged to tackle rising inflation problems in the country while instructing the central bank not to give any money for food importation, rather issue more credit facilities to local farmers and food processors.
It's not clear how long the initiatives of the government will have a direct impact on the prices of foods at the markets, but the hope is that with such efforts, the inflation rates will be brought down to a barest minimum.
That could mean that more consumers can increase their buying power and avoid living below the poverty line of $1.90 per day.
All right, there you go. Well, of course, from the report there, as you can say, this skyrocketing of food prices in Nigeria have raised concern of triggered concern among Nigerians, like it happens here in the Gambia, maybe in some part of Africa, because the impact of COVID-19 continues to hit hard on the life and livelihood of the, of course, of people around the world. And as you can see, as according to a World Bank report, that an estimated 7 million Nigerian has been pushed beyond the poverty line amid the the hikes of food prices in the West African nation. If you are following us, of course, some weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, we were, of course, talking about the issue of, food prices also here in the Gambia. But you can see the trend is beyond, in this part of the world. Of course, it also happened in some, of course, that's in part of the continent, rather, but also in Nigeria, if you have just watched. And I believe also it's more or same happening in other countries. So I mean, of course, the citizens or the Nigerians are raising concerns, and I hope the authorities would take up their concerns very, very seriously, and to deal with the issue. It's a big concern, and like I said, the impact of the COVID-19 is still hitting hard, and people are feeling the pinch. In different capacities, in different sectors. But then that's just how it is. It's just too, hard right now. So as you can see from the report there in Nigeria. So from Nigeria, we come back home and head straight to the capital in Banjul, and of course talk about matters of the National Assembly, because lawmakers have continued the consideration and scrutinization process of the Persons with Disabilities Bill 2020. The country's parliamentarians were given the opportunity to make detailed consideration and scrutinize the bill, as well as make some amendments before final adoption. The CISA tells us more of that in this report.
The bill is intended to make provisions for the healthcare, protection and promotion of basic rights for persons with disabilities. In the Gambia, many people with disabilities said they face social stigma, discrimination and prejudice for various reasons. However, nominated member Ndeye Yasin Seka, who is representing the visually impaired persons at the National Assembly, proposed that the Assembly should not continue with the UN conventions, as this may not be applicable for the Gambia, looking at the condition of disabilities in the country.
When we are saying that the international law should be followed, I think this is we are domesticating it, because we have already ratified the UN Convention and we have signed it. So we should not continue with what the UN says, because something may be applicable in other countries but not applicable in our country, especially persons with disabilities. So instead of saying to minimize, I think we should try, because we started that yesterday and we did not complete. I think we should say to eradicate is what we need. like what is happening in the Gambia, what are we minimizing? Look at the plight of persons with disability. Where are we and where are we heading at? I think we should make it better than following what the international. It's true, we should follow the international, but we should also look at what is applicable in our country.
Part of the consideration of the bill is Clause 3, which consists of the disabilities coding, which shall determine if impairment has a long-term effect on a person in Section 3 of the bill. As some of the lawmakers proposed the omission of this clause from the bill due to lack of clarity, the Minister of Women's Affairs, Children and Social Welfare, Fatou Kinte, made some clarification on the clause before it was amended.
The law is coming up with a mechanism to provide coding. Yes, because the law cannot do the coding. The mechanism here is we are going to get an expert who will do the coding. So the law is making provision for a mechanism for the coding. Yeah.
The principle of the Disabilities Bill is meant to promote human freedoms, respect for human dignity, as well as individual choices and the independence of persons with disabilities. Although the Constitution of the Gambia clearly guaranteed the freedom of fundamental human rights and equality for all in the country, the lives of persons with disabilities are handicapped by physical and social barriers in the society. This hampers their full participation, as thousands of them in all parts of the country often face life that is similarly segregated and debased. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy Cisse.
Yes, there's a very own Daisy Cisse reporting there. A very good friend, of course, reporting matters of the National Assembly. As proceedings continue, NAMs are deliberating on different issues, different matters of national interest, of national development, and of course, then they have been discussing different bills as well. So one of which, as you heard on the report, is the disability, persons with disability bill. So after I say, after a long wait, after a long wait, finally the bill has been discussed, at the National Assembly, and of course we are making some amendment. So before its adoption at the National Assembly, and I think this is a very good development. I have to say, there has been a concern how soon or when the National Assembly was going to finalize with this bill, but eventually they are on it, and I hope as they continue on the deliberations and scrutinizing the bill, they will eventually get to adopt it, and so that as we all were looking forward to, it will be a done deal, and it will be a big additional plus in supporting people with or persons with disabilities in the country. So it's a good step in the right direction. I think, this is one of the bills that people are talking about. When will the National Assembly sit on this bill and they discuss and adopt it, if you like? We have also other bills that are also pending at the National Assembly that I think are also people's concern, the likes of the corruption or the anti-corruption bill, the access to information bill. These are bills that are still stuck somewhere at the National Assembly, and they need to be discussed and of course the members to do what is expected, deliberate over it, and then see how best they can approve or end up adopting these bills, which Gambians believe they're needed to get us to the right path as our journey continues to develop, to develop this country of ours. So now here we talk about the persons with disabilities bill. They're deliberating, they're making amendments here and there, and I think that is important. So ko defee mu ngi noonu député yi ñu ngi continuer di amal seen taxawaay foofu ci pencum ndaw réew mi comme ni ma ko waxee léegi ni jamono ji ñu ngi waxtaan li nga xamante ne mooy bill bu am solo bi nga xamante ne dina seet taxawaay ak nu ñoo dimbale ak tamit nekkin li nga xamante ne mooy of course waaye laago yi ci biir réew mi lii nag nekk na bill bi nga xamante dafa soxal ñu bëri waaye tey bu ñu demee ba toll fii ñu ngi cee waxtaan te mu nekk li nga xamante ne mooy li am solo ministre bi tamit teew pour mu leeralal yenn li nga xamante ne xëy na ay lent la mu gën a leer am na li nga xamante ne tamit def nañ ko ay wecci nañ ko pour dugal fa li nga xamante ne dafa méngoo ak jamono pour taxaw leen jàpp naa ne loolu tamit dafa am solo am na nag yeneen bill yi nga xamante ne ba léegi ñu ngi foofu tamit tegu ci benn béréb ci National Assembly bi jot na tamit pour ñu bàyyi xel ci loolu xam naa nag dégg naa ñu ngi cee bàyyi xel di ci liggéey daanaka liggéey bi sori na waaye yàgg nañ ñu dégg tamit lu mel noonu lu mel ni access to information bill bi ak tamit anti corruption bill bi yëpp ñu ngi fa soo dee am solo pour tamit ñoom tamit ñu baral seen taxawaay ci loolu bu baax a baax pour ñu gindi askan gi seen fan lay toll dana am solo bu baax a baax ci loolu. Well, we'll move on, but if you are just joining us, maybe another reminder is that you are with the Thursday's edition of the Good Morning Africa program, live on Africa TV from the Gambia. And we say thank you so very much for joining us at this time, and of course, make it a date, with us from Monday to Friday. We are here every morning from 9 a.m. local time to whatever time you may have. I wouldn't want to be specific, but of course that's the time when we are here. And of course we take you through to what will be very interesting as always, in this program. So we want to move on, and now, of course, from Nigeria we want to go to South Africa and talk about COVID-19. Yes, COVID-19, because in their efforts to contain or to curb the further spread of the contagious Delta variant, South African authorities are speeding up vaccination drive. The Delta variant, which was first discovered in India, appears to be driving South Africa's new increase. Of course, according to the president, now the country recorded over 1,954,000 cases of the virus and more than 60,000 deaths as of Wednesday. Let's have more details of that in this report.
South African authorities have confirmed that the Delta variant is responsible for many of the new infections in KwaZulu-Natal and the third wave of infections in Gauteng province.
These viruses need to continue mutating to try to evade the immune responses that's been targeted against the virus so that it can continue surviving and continue propagating essentially. So that is when you have these mutations which are basically making the virus relatively resistant to the antibody that is targeting specific proteins that are on the surface, which otherwise would be able to get rid of the virus.
As the variant spread, authorities have opened hundreds of vaccination sites. 58 of those are targeting the mining sector and currently going through the registration process.
We have now 5 sites that are vaccinating. The first site was on the 24th of May in the Platinum Belt. And I think we are at least satisfied that we have got something in Platinum, in the Northwest Province, which has the largest number of mine workers. We also have 2 sites in the coal sector, and we also have 2 other sites in the gold sector.
South Africa, like many other African countries, has suffered from a shortage of vaccines.
The vaccine shortage has not had as big an impact on us as the fact that our sites had not yet been approved. So we hope that, with more sites being approved, the issue of vaccine shortage will not be an issue, and it means we can really ramp up on the side of there's more sites, but there's also more vaccines available.
On a broader level, it's been suggested that experts will think differently about vaccines in future.
It's unlikely that we're going to be able to prevent resurgences from taking place or to stop the virus from circulating. In fact, elimination of this virus is no longer an option in the immediate future, and certainly not during the course of our lifetimes.
As the country moves into that next level of lockdown, there's some questions being asked about whether all the measures and restrictions that have been put in place are actually going to make a difference. The bottom line is, we need vaccines, we need vaccinations, and they need to be done quickly.
Africa's hardest hit country as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned has been South Africa, and they continue to struggle or to fight against the COVID-19. And now they are dealing with the new variant, of course, which was first confirmed in India. And of course, as you can remember, some months, few months ago, the whole world was focused on India. Of course, we know how the COVID-19, what the COVID-19 have did in that Asian country. It was just too devastating, one could say. In South Africa also, they are now intensifying efforts. The authorities are working very hard. They are stepping up their efforts to make sure that they will contain the new virus, but overall eliminate the pandemic in the Rainbow Nation. Over 60 or close to 60,000 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19, and they have more than 1 million people have been affected since the outbreak in March 2020 or last year. So this is just why it is, and the struggle continues. They are still dealing with the pandemic, and there's now a new variant also that have emerged, and it has surfaced in South Africa, and it's a contagious virus or new infection, and the figures are seemingly going high again, and they want to step up their efforts and vaccinate more people as much as possible. All right, and I think that's the way to go. People have to take the vaccines, and to be protected against the virus. So we will move on and stay with matters of COVID-19, and of course, like I said, it's also hitting hard in South Africa. It's also doing in some other countries and impacting in different sectors. And here in the Gambia now, we report on its impact on the education sector, because the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the educational system in many countries, including the Gambia. With the close of schools across the country during the peak of the pandemic, the performance of school children seriously deteriorated. Now parents are worried. One of them told Africa TV that she is concerned of her child's performance due to the lack of irregular school attendance. I said B.I. Kujabi has more of that in this report.
In order to keep children safe from contracting the coronavirus, the Ministry of Education has limited the days in which students are supposed to go to school. In some schools in the Gambia, students attend classes only thrice a week, leaving some parents worried about the state of their children's educational outlook. Speaking to iAfrica TV, Rohisi, a parent, said the newly introduced school attendance system affected her child's performance. She appeals to the Ministry of Education to allow students to attend classes normally through the week.
Since grade 7, because grade 7, 2 days they got them.
For my child, it has affected her a lot since grade 7, because that was the grade she was going for 2 days, Thursdays and Saturdays. So now they have changed that when they went to grade 8, this time is 3 days a week. She did not complete her syllabus in grade 7 and 8, and now what is she going to do when she reaches grade 9?
Fatma Tarawale, a grade 9 student of the New Life Academy Center, told iAfrica TV that the limited days that have been introduced are affecting them.
Yeah, it affects a lot, especially with the grade 9s. It affects us a lot. And we need a time, that it will favor us. A constant time, that Monday to Friday we should be coming to school. Because these 4 days of coming to school, due to that, we are not able to even cover a lot of topics. So it won't even help us in our exams.
Despite the growing concern, the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education said not every school is affected by the new school restriction.
Like I said, we have what we call the alternation method or model, whereby certain children have to go for certain days and another group has to go for another number of days. But that is to affect only 23 schools nationally. And they are found mainly in the combos. Because even in Banjul, it used to be Gambia High School that was affected, and Muslim High School is not affected because the population is not much as it used to be. Schools like St. Teresa's, Ladrikunda, these are the big schools. And nationally, 23 of them were supposed to be doing that.
According to Mr. Job,
The school restrictions are meant to protect students from contracting the virus, but admitted that it could also affect their academic performance.
Yeah, I mean, we would say it has, because when you look at the contact hours, as I said, internationally, we're talking about 888 hours that children need to have contact with their teachers in every academic year. Now, obviously, if you were supposed to be going 5 and now you are going 3 days, for example, you're losing some time. So that would actually affect your contact time. And the fact that your contact time is affected, we can assume very reasonably that it can affect academics.
After the country registered its first coronavirus case on 17 March, schools, lumos, bars, nightclubs and other public places were closed to minimize the spread of the virus, which claimed at least 117 lives in the country. The Gambia has made important gains in ensuring access to education, but now the focus falls on learning outcomes, which is a huge challenge in the educational effort to ensure quality education for all Gambian children. For iAfrica News, I am Aistubiai Kujabi.
All right, the impact of COVID-19 on the education sector in the Gambia there, of course, as you had in that report there by Aistubiai Kujabi, and of course he has spoke to different, of course, people, the students, the parents, and of course the administrators. It is the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, and you know, right now, or since school, of course, schools were, you know, reopened in the Gambia, the ministry came up with a, you know, new, how would I call it, measure introducing a time schedule for students to attend at school, and you know, this in a way is still going in some school, but like Mr. Job highlighted, you know, the irregular attendance of students in some schools is not, of course, is something probably that could somehow maybe affect their academic performance, but it's not all schools that are affected in the country, and these are measures that are meant to protect children contracting the COVID-19 virus, and you know, we all know when schools were closed, of course, it was a big concern for everybody, and there was a call for the government to find ways and means to make sure school children, you know, students can go back to their schools, to the classrooms, and continue learning, or, you know, but then the measures were taken. Of course, now in the Gambia, the COVID-19 is seemingly dying down, but of course, COVID is still here. But I mean, somehow you might wonder whether people are taking it seriously nowadays. But yes, whatever the case might be, you know, I don't think the ministry would want the students to be exposed to some extent, all right? But then they also need to do more, because, you know, you go to schools now, you know, students don't wear face masks, there are no hand washing materials. I mean, social distancing is another thing. But then, yeah, some parents are worried, though, you know, the irregular attendance of their childs or children to school is a concern, as you heard from one of the parents who spoke to Africa TV with regards to that. Yeah, so I only hope that, you know, maybe the ministry might be thinking about how to fix these concerns, you know, because, yeah, COVID is still here, but I mean, people taking it seriously is another thing. But that's another discussion maybe in another time. But this is just, we feel we need to bring up this matter and, you know, speak to different stakeholders, people that are concerned, or people who are concerned of this, and of this new restriction or measure that's been taken by the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. Well, it's little over 9:40 or 41 in our studios in Banjul, and probably you know, we'll go to our final story before we'll see what would follow, and we would, of course, again cross border, and this time to Zimbabwe. All right, and of course we would, you know, talk about something away from COVID-19 and all that. So we will move on. Like I said, Zimbabwe, like many other African countries has seen a significant increase in digital money transaction thanks to the outbreak of the coronavirus global pandemic. More than 7.5 million mobile wallets were registered in Zimbabwe out of an estimated population of more than 14 million people. Well, I say it's out of COVID, but still it's an impact of COVID-19. But let's have more of that in this report.
Where hard cash was formerly king has been rapidly transformed into a predominantly cashless marketplace. According to the World Bank, there are over 7.5 million mobile wallets registered here out of an estimated 14 million population.
We are a country that has got at least 92% literacy rates, which means we are ready to embrace technology whenever it comes our way. On another note, remember, we are a country that is driven by digital money. When I say digital money, we like our EcoCash, we like our mobile money, and we don't have physical money. That means 96% of our transactions are what? Are electronic.
The growth has been driven not just by the long-running shortage of bank notes, but also the convenience that mobile transactions offer and a government push to widen financial inclusion. Due to the highly informalized nature of the economy, as much as 70% of the population is unbanked. That's according to 2020 statistics from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. However, the high prevalence of mobile wallets here means many of those who are unbanked can still be part of the financial ecosystem. Going forward, experts see other forms of digital currency thriving.
Zimbabwe is actually way ahead when you look at accepting this digital currency, mobile money, credit cards, and all those things. Yeah, we are on the right path. Everybody now is embracing digital currency. Look at it, even the Reserve Bank is talking about Bitcoins being an official currency. In short, it is good because we now have a currency that we can trade in.
Government says it intends to build on the strides made in digital transformation by opening up more community information centers and commissioning mobile base stations in the remotest parts of the country to deepen mobile and internet penetration.
A report there from Harare, Zimbabwe, and on mobile, or should I say, digital money transaction gaining momentum in the country, and of course, like also it's happening in many other African countries. Technology continue to give us more avenues to way of life and dealings and all that. So there's an uptake, of course, as you can see, of money or digital money transaction in Zimbabwe, and also it's happening in some other countries. So we hope the trend would continue, and so of course also why not Gambia? So we'll have more of it also in the country, and people will get used to it. Than the usual way, the normal way that we always do, the cash and carry thing and all that. People go with money if you want something. Yeah. So but that's a very good development, I have to say. So like I said, I really hope it will continue to spread across the continent, and then of course more people will be involved, more people will get online to do more business and do their transaction, as the world of today has dictates the way and how we would deal, or we deal among ourselves. So of course it has been a very interesting, I think, for the last 40 or 45 minutes or so. We have been to Nigeria, we have been to South Africa, we have been to Zimbabwe, if you have just watched, but equally giving you some of the latest development happening in the Gambia, the smiling coast of West Africa, or Africa if you like. And I'm afraid that should be it for today. And we should have gone beyond this time, but we just want to tell it here for bring it end for today. And we say thank you so very much, as always, for being there. And guess what? Tomorrow we will be back with a much more interesting and interactive, and of course much more informative edition, inshallah, God willing. And that will be the week's ending edition of this program as we closed another week. We say you make a rendezvous with us again tomorrow. And thank you so very much for being there. Once again, thank you for choosing iAfrica, and we always will be here to make sure that you are abreast with the latest information happening in the Gambia and beyond as well. Well, mbokk yi ñu ngi leen di gërëmaat bu baax di leen jaajëfal ci ni ngeen di ànd ak ñun saa su ne fii nag la ñoo yemandi ak yéen tey jox leen rendez-vous suba incha allah bu ci yàlla àndee ñu ñëw ci édition bu mujj ci week bi incha allah mu nekk lu am solo nañ ko gën a yaatal indi ci waxtaan yu interesting waxtaan yu am solo ci xew-xew ci biir réew mi ba ci biti réew comme ni ngeen ko gisee tey noonu lay boog di amee fii ci programme bi di leen jaajëfalal bu baax baax ci safoo bi ak ci kóolute bi di leen wax jërë ngeen jëfati ba suba ak jàmm bye bye.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate